It's good to have you with us at this hour. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Choy, here with the latest at this hour. South Korea has denied it is making preparations for unification through absorption of the North after remarks on the subject by a senior official drew condemnation from Pyongyang. The North said it will not deal with Seoul officials unless a South Korean committee charged with preparing for unification is dismantled. Our Kim Min-ji starts us off.
South Korea is pushing for peaceful unification, not unification through absorption. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Sunday that the government's unification preparations are not aimed at isolating North Korea, but for Pyongyang to join the global community.
It is a shame that the North is distorting the truth and denouncing the South Korean government and the Unification Preparation Committee. The North should respond positively to our efforts toward peaceful unification.
The comments come after the North condemned Seoul for alleged plans to unify the two Koreas through absorption. North Korea was referring to recent remarks made by Chung Jong-uk, a vice chairman of Seoul's Presidential Committee for Unification Preparation, who said that unification through absorption was an option. Chung also said there was a study group looking into the possibility. He later denied the remark, saying his choice of words was inappropriate. North Korea said it will not deal with South Korean authorities unless Seoul's presidential committee is disbanded, adding that unification through absorption is a daydream.
It's not that we don't know of any other process for unification or that we don't have the ability. If the puppet group recklessly resists, we will fight for unification in our own way.
The North also demanded that South Korean President Park Geun-hye apologize and clarify her position on the issue, as she is the chair of Seoul's Unification Committee. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Representatives of the government, the presidential office, and the ruling Saenuri Party have agreed to raise the minimum wage to an appropriate level. The three groups failed, however, to define what appropriate is during their meeting on Sunday. Hyun Jung-taek from the presidential office also called for cooperation to boost the economy and stabilize people's livelihoods. This is what he had to say. The government, ruling party, and the presidential office should work together to pass pending bills that would create more jobs for our people, and especially for the younger generation. And also at the meeting, officials did not discuss the issue of whether or not Korea should allow the U.S. to deploy a missile defense system, the THAAD, on its soil. The topic that was expected to be on the table is causing a bipartisan divide in local politics, with conservatives supporting the system and liberals opposing it, saying it undermines Korean sovereignty. And moving over to the diplomatic realm, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Russell and China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs Liu Jianchao will both be in Korea this week for discussions on regional affairs and issues of mutual interest. Russell arrives Monday for a two-day visit. He will meet with senior officials, including Deputy Foreign Minister Lee Kyung-soo. Liu's four-day visit started Sunday, and he will meet with his South Korean counterpart, Lee Kyung-soo. A foreign ministry official told Yonhap News the hottest topic of debate would be China's move to set up the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, seen as a counterbalance to the USChina-led Asian Development Bank, and the possible deployment of the THAAD U.S. missile defense system in Korea, which China opposes. Now, if Japanese leaders could correct their view of the country's wartime past, it would open the way for growth in China-Japan relations. That's according to Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, who addressed reporters at a news conference on Sunday. Li added that since this year marks the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, China-Japan relations now face both a test and an opportunity. He went on to stress that the problem is Japan's view of its wartime history, saying it is the responsibility of national leaders to face up to their country's past. The Chinese premier says progress in this area could lay a firmer foundation for the development of bilateral trade and economic cooperation between those two countries. Staying with the topic of history or efforts to distort history, the Japanese government will provide over $15 million to fund Japanese studies at top U.S. universities. Yonhap News Agency reported Sunday, citing diplomatic sources in Washington, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Georgetown University will receive $5 million each from the Japanese government. Japan will also allocate roughly $200,000 to the Japan Foundation for cultural exchanges. 6 universities in the U.S. and other countries will also benefit. The move is being seen as an attempt by Japan to water down its wartime past. The Japanese government was recently turned down by U.S. publisher McGraw-Hill Education, which was asked to change a description of comfort women in one of its textbooks. Moving on to international news, the first shipment of aid have arrived to the Pacific island nation of Vanuatu. It was hit with a massive cyclone over the weekend that left a horrific trail of destruction. A state of emergency has been declared and global aid agencies are gearing up to help out. Australia and New Zealand have pledged assistance along with the UK and the UN. But relief efforts have been hampered as authorities struggle to gauge the extent of the damage, with communications down. Winds of more than 300 kilometers per hour tore through the country Friday and Saturday, destroying homes, crops, and bringing down trees and power lines, and also taking lives. At least 8 people have been confirmed dead, and at least 20 more were injured. But the death toll is expected to rise even further as rescuers reach outlying islands. Vanuatu is among the world's poorest countries and is highly prone to natural disasters. And shifting gears to the Korean economy now. Korea's economic growth fell short of the G20 average for a 4th straight year in the year 2014, with little sign that the sluggish pace of growth will pick up this year. And our Hwang Ji-hye reports there are growing concerns that the low growth trend could continue for a while.
The Korean economy continues to fail to outperform the average growth posted by G20 countries. Recent data from the OECD shows that Korea grew at a slower pace than the G20 average for a 4th straight year in 2014. That's the longest streak for Asia's 4th largest economy. In the years between 1999 and 2010, Korea fell short of the G20 average only 2 times, in 2003 and 2005. While the International Monetary Fund expects the Korean economy to grow faster this year than in 2014 by 3.7%, major economic data released so far this year shows that pace of growth might be hard to obtain. Korea's output, consumption, and exports were all down this year. The Bank of Korea recently cut its key interest rate to a historic low of 1.75% as a way of propping up the ailing economy. But the rate cut also points to a need for a trim of the central bank's new growth forecast for the economy this year, set to be released next month. The BOK currently expects the domestic economy to grow 3.4% this year. Now the attention is focused on the effects that the rate cut and the government's stimulus measures could have on boosting the domestic economy. A local research institute says the government's measures to prop up the economy will raise the country's growth rate by over 0.3 percentage points. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
When it comes to meticulous attention to detail, miniaturization at an even molecular level, Koreans definitely have some kind of a knack for it. Korean researchers have come up with new technology in the field of microencapsulation that could change the future of the display panel industry in Korea and how we view the world in our TVs and our smartphones as well. Our Kim Young-gil has more on this story.
Screen displays are important components of devices we use every day, like smartphones, laptops, and TVs. Often we stare at 2-dimensional images on these screens. But a team of experts at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology have developed technology that they say will help viewers see images 3-dimensionally.
We use molecular engineering to create rubber-covered microcapsules that can move around in liquid and change shape and color, making displayed images look 3-dimensional.
They say their technology, which microcapsules photonic crystals, can be used for next-generation reflective-type color displays that can bend or fold. What's more, these microcapsules have characteristics that allows them to change colors based on varying temperatures, which would result in a more brilliant display panel. The team expects the technology will take off in the flexible display market, which is estimated to reach some $4 billion in 2018, and it doesn't stop there.
Not only can we make flexible displays using the microcapsule technology, but we can also use it for microlasers and special paints.
The KAIST team's research on microcapsulating technology was published in the scientific journal Advanced Materials. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
In sports, you need to have that killer instinct, and Yoo Se-yeon certainly has that. She beat her close friend and colleague Park In-bi by 2 strokes to capture the world ladies championship title in Hainan, China. At the Blackstone course at Mission Hills, Yoo finished with a 13-under, bagging the $600,000 prize money and putting her on a path to snatching 12 championship titles. It was a seesaw battle between Yoo and Park, the defending champ, but all of that changed on the 17th hole when Yoo birded to take the lead and never looked back. Park was trying to win her second title in as many weeks after capturing the HSBC Women's Champions Trophy in Singapore. And now moving on to weather. It is safe to dress lighter than before. Seoul will have a daytime high of 16 degrees Celsius on Monday. And down south, the mercury shoots up to 22. It will be a warm and dry week overall, except in the middle of the week. So that time of the week, try and carry an umbrella or maybe a raincoat even if you want to be secure and safe and free from getting wet. And now let's check out the weather conditions outside of Korea, around the world. And that does it for us this week. Do have a great start to your week. Thank you so much for watching.